Council elections are the most important thing that will happen this year. And the reason I say that is they're not usually very glamorous. Normally people don't turn out. The voter turnout is low at council elections, but it needs to be huge, and it needs to be huge for one party. And the reason for that is you need people in place to fight what's going on with this country, and you need it on the ground, at ground level. So if you think of your political party as an army and the MPs as the officers, then you need the troops on the ground, and the troops are the councillors at the council elections, because they're the ones that get directives from central government to follow a narrative that's completely unsuitable for this country. So you need people in place to speak truth to power rather than accepting the narrative, which is what's happened with parties up to now. And there's people out there willing to do it because everybody's that fed up. I did a live event last night and I really enjoyed it. And everybody was like-minded. We didn't disagree on anything. But if you want to change what's going on at government level, you need councillors in place to challenge it from their end and to be ready for the next election. This last election took us by surprise because it was a snap election, because Rishi Sunak wanted to step down because he basically didn't want to be in charge of the country on a war footing. That's what the rumour is. Now, somebody who steps down is walking away from the power base. He didn't need to. He could have stayed in longer. So all the things that Robert Jenrick comes out with about what he's going to do and what should be done, that could have been a possibility if they'd stayed in power. But they didn't. They walked away. And no matter how many times Robert Jenrick tells you that this is wrong and that is wrong and this should be done, they were in a position to do it and they did not do it. They should have done it. They handed it over. They knew that Labour would win. They knew that Labour were worse. A snap election is awful for small parties because it doesn't give them a chance to get ready. So the only hope we had was that a famous face came back, because without him coming back, it wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have got 5 seats. It's now 4 because of a dispute, but still, it's the other guy is still on this side of the fence. So Nigel comes back, boom! It lights a torch under the movement, but it wasn't enough time for it to grow, and people were already fed up of politicians. They'd had enough. So what happened? People didn't turn out. Labour got in because the Labour people turned out, and there's a huge nucleus of them in London, and the Lovies, they all voted. But nobody expected him to be as bad as he is, not even the Lovies. Owen Jones is complaining about him. That bloody annoying woman, what's she called? Something Alabama Brown, I can't remember. Yasmin, she's moaning about him. So if their own side, if these staunch socialists are complaining about him, he's bad. So what you've got to do with the council elections is there's Starmer at the head of the snake, and down is the ministers, then the politicians, then the councils. So if you knock his men off the board at council level, you weaken the government. Not only that, you get people in place ready for the 2029 election to back up the political candidates that they'll have by then, because they're working on it now. There's a lot of work going on. They're a small number of people. They haven't got time to fanny around stroking people's egos if they don't win a seat. They're just getting on because there's not enough of them to do the job. It was a snap election. But we don't need to have our pants pulled down again. We can be ready for it. We can be ready for it by making sure that we vote on the 1st of May for a Reform Party candidate in those council elections to speak truth to power. And instead of these narratives coming down from central government with lucrative incentives, we have someone in place to say, this isn't a fact, this is an opinion. We need someone to talk it down. We need someone to draw the councils back to basics. Stop spending money on carbon capture from the sea when you can't even clear a drain to stop flooding. Stop allowing builders to tap into existing drainage systems without thorough checking. And let's face it, if it wasn't for the Tories handing over power to the Labour Party, we wouldn't have great swathes of green belt being built on. And if you had a party in that would stop the boats and not allow illegal entrants to claim asylum and insist on identification and tariff France. Right, France, I'm sorry you're not doing your job properly. Here's a 20% tariff on your cheese, your wine, your helicopter parts and your cars. I'll see you at the other side. They'd soon start stopping the boats. The only thing I would say about France, I think the Mayor of Calais has a good point. Why are you putting them in hotels? You're giving them an incentive. They don't put them in hotels in Calais. They're living in tents. So the only way to make France work for us or with us is to give them something to lose. People try harder if they've got something to lose. People work harder if they're hungry. They don't work harder if they're pampered. It's that kind of ethos. You've got to get that into your thinking. And meantime, you've got to get these councils with a more balanced representation for common sense, so that when it comes to an election, this isn't just a shed full of generals and officers. This is a troop. This is an army of people. And the councils will be backing up the MPs that are successful. We need to win. We can't fanny around. We can't fanny around and hope to get 50 MP. We need to win. We need to win the general election and take that power base away from the Uni Party, because they knew what they were doing when Rishi Sunak stood down. And unfortunately, they're not democratically run parties, because every time the Tories have voted for someone, they got somebody else. They voted for Andrea Leadsom and got Theresa May. They voted for Liz Truss. She ended up in Whitcat. And yeah, where is she now? Oh yeah, that's it, bummed off, because they wanted Rishi Sunak, because he would be more of a yes man. And then they knew, those politicians knew that Labour would end up in power. What they didn't know is that 5 MPs will burst into action because somebody, a famous face, who stood by the issues that we face for 20 odd years and taken the abuse on the chin, day in, day out, came back into politics. Now you'll hear all sorts of rumours about why he came back. I've been speaking to the man, and he's come back because this is the last chance saloon, this. And what we need from the council elections is to be ready for it, so that you've got your troops in place. It makes it very difficult for a government to run if they have less councillors. The less, the better. And there'll be by-elections along the way where we need to just pick them off one at a time. Because we've had enough. Don't think it can't be done. Because what you've got to look at the SNP in Scotland. When they got 4 million votes, they got 52 seats. When UKIP got 4 million votes, they got 1 seat. That's how disjointed this system is. But look where they are now. They're toast. Did you ever think that would happen? I didn't. But there you have it. If you've got a willingness to push forward, you can change things. But we need to be part of it. We need to be part of our own destiny, rather than just sitting back saying, well, you know, if voting mattered, they wouldn't let you have it. Those days are gone. That's finished, that saying now. This is the moment in time when voting matters. It matters a lot. So at these council elections, get out and vote. A woman contacted me this morning who met me last night. I've got to say what a fantastic crowd they were. And she said, guess what I'm doing, Jane? I'm having a coffee morning on Friday. And she's invited her friends and neighbours round. She's not told them what it's about. And what she's doing, the reason she's doing it, she's baking. Hope I get a bit of cake. She's having her friends round who aren't political. And she's going to explain how important it is to vote in the council elections. Now that is effort. I love to see stuff like that. And there's loads of people like that. There's loads of people at council level putting eons of time and effort in for no payment, just to affect change in this country. And it starts at the grassroots, it always does. We're a huge number of people, huge. But we need to have the tenacity to back these people up that are trying to change it from a political perspective. It can be done, it should be done, and you need to vote to get it done.